Hello there, my wonderful misfortunes. It's delightful to have you back here on the channel where we explore the enchanting realm of magnificent mishaps. Today, we're plunging into the depths of Season 1, Episode 6 of The Gilded Age, titled Heads Have Rolled for Less. If you happen to miss the breakdown of Episode 5, be sure to catch up by watching that video. However, before we embark on this adventure, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, ensuring you never miss any of the exhilarating new content I bring to you. Now let's delve into the intricate details of this captivating episode. This disaster is an absolute mess. When we last left off in The Gilded Age, episode 5, George Russell had just received the distressing news that one of his trains had met with a catastrophic accident in Pennsylvania, resulting in the tragic loss of 5 lives. IDY Development George, accompanied by Bertha and Clara Barton, has arrived at the scene to assess the extent of the devastation. Shockingly, it appears that a faulty, worn-out axle installed by someone on the assembly line was the cause of this horrific crash. Ives is determined to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. In the meantime, as a means of damage control, he hands yet another substantial check to Clara, while Bertha plans to demonstrate her unwavering support by attending the upcoming Red Cross board. During the gathering, the entire group of high society ladies is present. The widow Morris becomes agitated upon learning that Bertha Russell will be attending, exclaiming, "Why?" She is the wife of a murderer who has even more blood on his hands now than when he killed my husband. In an attempt to gauge the room's opinion, Aurora Fane asks for a show of hands in support of Mrs. Russell joining the board. Clara Barton interjects, reminding everyone that the Russells have contributed more money than all these society fools combined. Slowly, one by one, the hands of the attendees rise. As Miss Morris scoffs at their decision, stating, "Good luck with your new member and your new set of values. I do not share your admiration for either." And with that, she swiftly exits, cloaked in black. Interestingly, Clara Barton finds amusement in seeing the discomfort of society women. Even after the commotion caused by Mrs. Morris, she approaches Marian, hoping to convince scandalous old Mrs. Chamberlain to contribute funds to their cause. For the 112th time this season, Aurora Fane gasps in shock at the mention of the name Chamberlain, but Marian is more than willing to assist. After all, anything for the cause. Marian's education on racism continues to unfold in this episode as she and Peggy attempt to hail a cab after the Red Cross meeting. Unfortunately, their driver refuses to take Peggy because she is black. Marian channels her inner Olsen twin and exclaims, "How rude," while Peggy simply rolls her eyes and remarks, "You've just discovered injustice. I've lived with it my whole life." While it's entertaining to watch Peggy enlighten Marian, I must admit that I recently finished watching an entire season of And Just Like That, and that alone has exhausted my tolerance for white ladies remaining ignorant on HBO, at least for now. Bertha's star is on the rise as she discovers that Ward McAllister desires an invitation to her residence. However, there's a catch. McAllister prefers the English style of lunch service, unlike the French style employed at the Russells' house. Last week, Bannister, the Van Ryan's butler, unexpectedly visited the Russells to retrieve Pumpkin the dog. During his visit, he made remarks about their food and table settings. Little did anyone know that this would become a crucial plot point later on. Determined to please McAllister, Bertha instructs her butler church to hire Bannister, and she's willing to pay him $100 to supervise the lunch and ensure that the English service is flawless. Our church is annoyed by this request, and although it's an exciting diversion for Bannister, it turns into a series of comedic mishaps on the actual day. I almost forgot to mention Peggy and her achievement of getting more subscribes for the New York Globe. Congrats, Peggy. Also, Miss Armstrong did mention to Bannister that she worries that Peggy may turn around and start writing about the family. Now we know she's just trying to get rid of Peggy. What also amazed me is that we see that Agnes has a soft spot for Peggy and defends her when Armstrong mentions to her of her so-called worry that Peggy will write something about the family. Agnes tells Armstrong to back off of Peggy and that if she continues to make it hard for Peggy, she will be very upset, which means I'll fire you if you continue to make Peggy's life hell. Cheers to Aunt Agnes. To be able to go to the Russells, Bannister needs a reason to excuse himself from the Van Ryans. He tells Agnes that he has urgent family legal matters to attend to with a lawyer who only holds office hours during lunchtime. Agnes, however, is skeptical as she has never heard of lawyers who observe such peculiar fasting-like hours. This week brings about a new dynamic between Bertha and George Russell. While Miss Turner's presence was absent from George's bed in this particular episode, it appears that he is slowly warming up to the idea. Bertha's increasing need for control and obsession with society is becoming a bit overwhelming for him. Although he is genuinely concerned about the train accident and its impact on both lives and his business, Bertha's concern lies with Ward McAllister's opinion of them. Bertha, all you care about is your reputation and not the possibility that your husband might go to jail for what happened. This causes George to snap at her, emphasizing that his own problems are more important than a mere lunch with McAllister. Furthermore, when Bertha shows George a letter intercepted for their daughter Gladys from her former suitor Archie Baldwin, George is utterly disgusted, questioning why she still opens Gladys's letters. Up until now, George and Bertha seem to be on the same page, but Bertha's relentless pursued status and control over everything is starting to wear on him. Please don't be weak, Bertha warns George. No one could ever accuse you of that, George retorted sharply. I was so happy when George snatched away that letter from Bertha. I jumped for joy when he did that. Bravo, George. And when George presents the letter to Gladys, he attempts to share a tender moment with his daughter. However, Gladys pleads with him to explain why Archie wasn't deemed suitable for her. George responds by saying, "Your mother believes it's for the best." Alleged. In response, Gladys delivers a cutting remark saying, "You're one of the most successful men in the country with real estate, steel, copper, coal, oil, and railroads. You're the envy of the world, yet you can't stand up to your wife?" Arch takes these words to heart, and later when his son Larry mentions that Mamie Fish is hosting a party and has invited both Gladys and him, Bertha forbids Gladys from attending. However, George, Gladys, and Larry all insist that she should go. Accidentally, Bertha relents. As they arrive at MS Fish's party, Gladys, portrayed by Thaisa Farmiga, realizes that she should probably call her older sister Vera, who knows a thing or two about dealing with creepy dolls like Annabelle. The party turns out to be a doll tea party, which is unsettling at best and possibly haunted at worst. However, Gladys soon discovers that she doesn't need to worry about evil spirits. Instead, she finds a kindred spirit in Carrie Astor, who becomes a delightful best friend and a shortcut into high society. Together, Gladys and Carrie bond over their difficult relationships with their mothers. When Bertha learns of their friendship, she finally begins to allow Gladys to socialize more freely. The long-awaited day of the Russells' luncheon with Ward McAllister finally arrives, and it's a grand affair. The Fanes, Marian, Mr. Rikes, and Mr. McAllister himself are all in attendance, marveling at the opulence of the Russells' mansion. As they take their seats, they are pleasantly surprised to find decadent gifts hidden in their napkins, adding an extra touch of luxury to the occasion. Meanwhile, over at Aunt Agnes's place, a completely different scene unfolds. With Bannister absent at the Russells, the responsibility of serving lunch falls on the shoulders of the younger butler, John. However, he struggles to maintain composure and serve with a steady hand just when it seems like chaos might ensue. A letter arrives for Agnes from an unknown sender, revealing Bannister's whereabouts. And of course, we already know who wrote the letter, Church. You have some explaining to do. Not really. Only if he was caught and ruined the luncheon for Bertha. I wonder why he didn't take that into account before he wrote it. Agnes, furious of the truth about Bannister, leaves the house in rage, while Ada is screaming out to her, "Don't do anything foolish." Aunt Agnes is pissed. She walks across the street in anger to the Russell house, not even looking both ways as she crosses. Almost getting hit by carriages, she enters the home into the dining room where she is met with Bannister, who is on overseeing the dinner. Is now met with the shock of seeing Agnes. However, when she arrives unannounced at the Russells' luncheon, the others do their best to downplay her outburst. They invite her to join them, offering excuses for her sudden appearance. Agnes realizes that her impulsive actions may have been inappropriate and excuses herself, whispering a warning to Bannister as she leaves. Heads have rolled for less. It's a moment of pure comedy amidst the chaos and drama. Agnes is taken aback by this revelation and her anger reaches its peak. She can't believe Bannister would betray her in such a way. But little does she know there's more to come. Miss Armstrong, a witness to a seemingly intimate conversation between Oscar and Miss Turner, the Russells' maid, approaches Agnes with the shocking news. Unaware of Oscar's true intentions, Armstrong whispers her suspicions to Agnes, who becomes absolutely livid. The tension in the air is palpable as Agnes processes this new information. She feels a mix of anger, betrayal, and embarrassment. Though show always follows a predictable pattern, a lot of society events, and then something terrible happens to George Russell's business in the final moments. And this episode is no exception. Bertha is on cloud nine after her successful lunch with McAllister. She walks into George's study to find him lost in his thoughts, swirling his brandy in a snifter. He has just received news that the person responsible for the faulty train engine has been identified. Shockingly, it turns out that George himself had instructed the builder to use old train parts. There is concrete evidence to prove it. This means that the blame doesn't lie with some middle manager, but squarely on George's shoulders. What will Mr. McAllister think of them now? I honestly feel that this episode was so entertaining and funny, but I can't but feel as to why Miss Armstrong told Agnes about Oscar, all just because Turner touched his arm. Oh my, how sinister, whatever. I'll go first, Peggy, and now this. Give us a break, Miss Armstrong. Miss Armstrong has got to go. I hope that she gets fired or something. Tell me what you thought of this episode. I'm dying to know. Till next time, take care of yourself.